Hello everyone and welcome to Call Sign Charlie Models. It is time for part 7 of the Kitty Hawk 135th MH-60T Jayhawk. Now to start off with, we had to decide on which landing gear we're going to use. I was deciding between the Res Kit and the Armor Hobby landing gear. I decided to go with the Armor Hobby because it does have the bulge in the landing gear, and this is going to be a static display on the ground, so definitely need that bulge. So moving on, we're going to be starting with the tail landing gear right here, just getting it cleaned up a little bit with some mold seams here. Then we're going to be adding the shock absorbers to that here right now. Now getting that cleaned up, I did end up breaking one of them. They are very small and pretty fragile when you are handling them. You'll see it break here in just a second. As I'm handling it, like right there, just broke. So got to glue that back into place. Just a quick touch of some Tamiya glue and let that set for a little while, and then we're going to start gluing this into place. Now this one is not going to be that difficult because it, like I said, it's going to be on the ground, so we don't have to do any extensions. Now on the Seahawk, we're going to have it in flight, so we're going to have to extend the landing gear to show that there's no weight on the landing gear. But this was pretty easy to glue into place. Just glued the two sides and then I had them meet in the middle. It was still a little bit soft from gluing together, so I had to fight that just a wee bit, but ended up getting it done. And then we're going to have another piece of photo etch that's going to go on here in just a second, right there. And getting that folded and glued into place. Doing a quick test fit to see where it goes. Then adding a little dot of the Zap CA glue to put it in place. Now we're putting that off to the side, and now starts the headache of the day, the fuselage halves. You guys are going to get to see a lot of the fight that I had with these fuselage halves. Getting them together definitely was a time where this kit almost went up against the wall a few times. But to start off with, we do have a few holes to drill for this. Now in the instructions of the MH-60H, which is the kit that we are following, it does have you drill out a lot more holes than what is required, because the hotel version of the 60 does have a lot more sensors and such on the tail area that you need to drill out for. But with this, we're only drilling out for the antenna that goes along the back end. So just getting those holes drilled out and cleaned up, and then we're going to be attaching those rails at the very end of the build. So now we're getting into fitting in the interior shell of the fuselage, the cabin, and from the looks of it right here, the fit was pretty good. It was a tight fit, and as you know, the warpage that we had wasn't too bad. But now before we get the fuselage halves and the interior, and we do have these two little scoops to put it into the fuselage, get that done before you close it up, because otherwise it's going to be an absolute nightmare to get those pieces attached. I think it might be impossible to get those pieces attached after you close everything up. But just applying the glue and then sliding them into place. The glue is holding it in while I have some time to position it, making sure it's all squared up, and we are good to go on that. And then this tail section for the tail rotor fold, did a fit. I had it fit in originally, and I ended up pulling it out, and I attached it at the very end after everything was attached. And as you're going to see in the video later on, I have the fuselage almost glued together, and then I had to break it apart because the fit on the bottom was just absolutely atrocious, which you're going to get to see here. And I ended up with not a great fit, but a fit that is good enough, is sandable now. And you're going to get to see that here in this video. Yes, this video is a little bit longer than what I have been doing, but we are cramming about 6 hours worth of work into a 30-minute video right here. And I cut out a lot of parts with me just sitting there holding it together. but you're going to see a lot of the headache that I had with this kit, and some of the lessons learned that I'm going to take into the Seahawk, that I'm going to be doing pretty much the same steps with tomorrow on this. So now at least I know what areas need to be shaved out, trimmed out, and all of that. So again, getting the fuselage or the interior in to the fuselage. Like I said, the fit right now into one side is actually pretty good and pretty tight. We just had a little bit of a lip on the cabin, the rear cabin entrance, that we had to fix, but it wasn't too bad, and just a simple clamp got it to work. So holding that into place right now, and then we're going to apply some glue right here, get all that done. Looking at everything, making sure that we are squared up, which initially it looks like we're squared up, but come to find out we were not even close to squared up. Had to get some clamps to help hold the top and bottom to the cabin. And then we're going to get it lined up onto the door, get that area glued in. We're going to have to do some painting on that area of the plastic just to get it to blend in. We're going to be doing some painting and chipping and all that onto that lip of the cabin door after everything is said and done, before we actually close everything up for the main paint. So holding everything in tight, got the clamps on to help. Then getting the cockpit bulkhead glued in as well. And we got to reposition some of the clamps to help out. So the main issue right here is that the cockpit floor is too low in the fuselage. So this is going to be causing a lot of the fit issues that we're going to be having, but we also have some other issues that we're going to be tackling a little bit later on in the build. So when I got the fuselage halves together, the top and the tail would go together almost perfectly, right? So got it to where it was acceptable. And then the tail area was spot on. It almost looked like it didn't even need to be sanded when it was glued in together right here, which is a sad thing because I lost that perfect join when I had to break the kit apart to fix everything. That top line glued together, top seam glued, and then this piece right here, the front to the nose, this piece ended up being another nightmare. It did not want to stay. Even after I got the fit better, it did not want to cooperate. So I ended up using some super glue and some zip kicker to get it into place. And yes, I'm going to have to break that apart later on as well. While that was drying, I decided to pull out the little radar dome that goes on the nose of the Jayhawk, getting these cut off from Warner's wings. Absolutely beautiful detail on it. getting a little bit of the cleanup done right there, and we're going to be testing that out later on in the video as well. Alright, so now for the main headache of the day is the underside of this guy. As you can see, there is a huge gap on the bottom, and no matter how hard you squeeze or what you do, you could not get it to get any closer on the front section. On the back section, it was pretty close. Still a decent gap, but it was not as bad as what the front section was. The front section was a good 5 to 10 millimeter of a gap, I would say, and just no matter what I did, could not get it to go in. So working on this, squeezing really hard, you can kind of see the shaking there, and it's just not cooperating with me. So coming up, we're going to be breaking all of this apart, and we're going to be re-tackling it. I think the problem was with the steps, the kick plates for the crew to get up into the engine area, which we're going to cut out and put some styrene on the back side of it, some very thin styrene, because when we put in those kick plates, we don't want to lose those in the model, because otherwise, if you lose it in the model when the fuselage halves are together, you're not going to be getting those back. And you're going to see later on how we attach those. So now, just trying to break everything apart to undo the glue. I was using my hobby knife, but the gap that was cutting was too thick, so I brought out my razor saw and started sawing the seam line right here, gently scoring it until it broke free. Like I said, on the tail section, that join was almost perfect. I mean, it almost looked like you didn't need to sand it with the way it was. And sadly now, it's not like that. So I'm definitely going to have to use a lot of putty for this one and sanding. And then also we're going to have to redo all the bottom detail that we are going to lose when we sand off everything that we do. So now I am going to be removing the kick plate steps for the crew. Those don't need to be molded in like that. I think it was, I don't know what they were thinking when they're putting those in. It doesn't really matter unless you're going to have a figure stepping up into that kick plate. It is a spring-loaded kick plate, so it springs back into place after you take your foot out. So again, I think they overcomplicated the mold with that, with an unnecessary detail. I mean, the very few people that would be using that part as a crew member stepping up, I think they would be able to scratch build that anyways if they really wanted to. So that part was causing a fit issue. So we got that cut out. It made it a little bit better. It wasn't 100% better. That wasn't the sole purpose or reason for the fit issues I was having. Like I said, one of the main ones was the cockpit floor was too low in the fuselage. So we had to fix that, but also all these extra parts right here are definitely causing some fit issues. So I'm cutting all that out. This one, not so much, come to find out, wasn't causing an issue, but I just wanted to make sure that anything that could be causing an issue was cut out, because on that point you wouldn't be able to see what was connecting or what was bumping up against each other. again, doing the fit. Top fits nice, but the bottom is still causing issues. And at this point, I realize I am going to have to break the interior cabin or the interior shell out of the model in order to get this to work, because we do have some sanding on the areas that we need to take care of in order to get it to fit. So here we are trying to break free the fuselage halves from the cabin using my hobby knife. Trying to remember all the areas that I applied glue to. This is one of the lips that needed sanded down. That was causing one of the issues. So got that sanded down to where it's almost flush on that side bulkhead for the cabin. Another quick test fit. It's getting there. So that lip right there, that was one of the main culprits to the fit issue with this kit. Alright, so I had to take a break. I had to set it off to the side. Took a couple hours because at that point I was getting extremely frustrated. And now we are back. I took some very thin styrene and attached it to the back end of the kick plates. So now we are gluing those into place. Now, one thing I wish I would have done differently is I wish I would have glued the kick plates in first with the fuselage halves broken apart. So I could have had my finger on the back end just to make sure it's lined up. And then added in the styrene afterwards, just to make sure that it had a backing just in case something accidentally hit it and it popped in. So now we're going to be adding the interior shell back into the model after all the modifications and everything have been done to the inside of the fuselage halves, and making sure that the cockpit floor is lined up correctly this time. And that's going to help a lot with the fit issues as well. So not only that lip that was on the port side of the aft cabin that was causing issues, along with the kick plate steps also causing issues, but I think those compounded against each other caused that major gap. And now after we get everything glued back in, you're going to be able to see that it's going to fit a lot better. I can actually get the bottom seam lines to fit together, to touch, to a point where I can go in with a little bit of super glue and kind of fill in that gap. It's not perfect, but it's better than what it was. It's fixable at this point. So, and luckily it's on the bottom, so you're not going to be able to see it. Another thing I added was, you see that piece of thick styrene on the bottom. I wanted to add some support to the floor, and also the floor on one of the sides is a little bit warped, so it wasn't lining up. So I added in that sheet of styrene to help as a alignment tab. And for the Seahawk, I'm going to be doing it for the top and the bottom. I think that's going to help with a lot of fit issues in this kit. Alright, so now getting the tail boom glued back together. It's okay now, but it's not as good as what it was. You can definitely see the seam line now, and getting the top half of the tail boom, again, it's okay, but not nearly as good as what it was earlier. That's because I had to use the razor saw and the hobby knife to break it apart. using a clamp to hold together the top side while we glue that together. Again, not nearly as good as what it was earlier, but luckily this is all going to be covered up by the engine and the overhead right here, so you're not going to be able to see it. Just want to make sure it's all lined up and straight and a good fit, so that way when we do glue all that stuff in, we don't have any fit issues with that stuff as well. I really wish ResKit or another company would come out with the little equipment bay that goes right on the that front end, where you can have that hatch pulled forward. That would be an amazing addition to this kit and give you so many options for dioramas as well. I definitely got my money's worth on these clamps today because they are being used a lot. Alright, so moving on to the bottom section. As you can see right now I can finally get some of the panel lines or the seam lines to touch, which is much better than what it was before. So I'm gonna hold that into place for a little bit, and then after that's dry, I'm using the quick setting cement from Tamiya, and we're gonna get that clamped in here in a little bit just to help out with that. Doing a quick test fit with that radar cone from Warner's Wings. Looks like it's going to be a perfect fit on that. Cannot wait to get that glued in. Now, because of the gap is so bad on this, I'm just going to go and fill it with some CA glue. Right there, we'll sand it down at the end before we start paint, but now we have something. That's also another additional benefit to having that piece of styrene underneath, is that glue has somewhere to sit and fill instead of falling into the model. Like this section right here that I did not put the sheet of styrene on. Gonna hit it with some zip kicker here in a little bit to help speed up the drying process. And that pesky nose section again. Alright, so now getting the radar dome attached into the nose. Just a little bit of cleanup to do on the after the test fit. Was sitting a little bit too far forward on it, and now we got it to fit. Now I did skip ahead a little bit on the instructions because the instructions do not have you attach the nose cover until a few steps later in this. And as you can see, we're still going to have some putty and stuff to do on the nose, and I realized I had some super glue run down on the bottom, so that's more sanding that we're going to have to do. And now the fuselage half is all done. So now we are starting with the engines. I'm not really too worried about the engines. I'm not going to go detailed on them because you're not going to be able to see them. I'm going to have everything closed up. So when I get to it, I'm just going to paint the engines black. The only thing that's really going to be detailed are those intake fans that will be getting attached here very shortly. for some reason this engine just did not want to fit together as well. I don't know what it was. Like I said, today was just not a good day at the workbench. It seemed like everything I did wanted to fight me in every shape of way. One of the reasons why it wasn't fitting well is because I missed one of the connecting tabs or the sprue gate. So once I got that cut off, I was able to get it to fit. And now we're adding in the intake fans right here. We're gluing more of the engine together. Like I said, everything wanted to fight me tooth and nail today. It was a rough day. This model almost got thrown up against the wall a few times today, but I had to step away and come back at it after a few hours, and I'm decently happy with it. It's going to take a lot of work to get the cleanup done, but we're going to get there. So getting the other engine done, and we're almost done for today. I just have the firewall to do, and that's another thing is the Kitty Hawk instructions, they are backwards on one of the firewalls. I'll show you here in just a second. Once this engine is glued together, we're doing the rear firewall right here. We're going to get the two sidewalls glued in, and then we'll glue the engines in. Those were a perfect fit, no issues on that. Nice and tight on the connection tab right there. And then we get the engines glued in. And then we're going to have the front firewalls go in. This is where they got it backwards on the instructions on these firewalls coming up. So the one that they have on the port side is actually meant for the starboard side in the instructions. And this one fit perfectly without any issues. Once you get it lined up and figured out right, it slid right in and didn't have any issues with that one. Now the other one did want to fight me a little bit, but after a little bit of motivation, I was able to get it to fit. As you can see here, it just does not want to slide in like the other one did. Alright, so that's going to wrap it up for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you guys learned some stuff or got some front loading if you guys are going to be building one of these 60s in the future on the cabin fit issues. Next week we have a lot more going on with this, and really looking forward to everything. We're actually gonna, I think, start getting into the res kit engine set for this, or not the engine set, the rotor head set. But that's all I got. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you haven't yet, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the bell button for notifications of when I post future videos, like part 8 of the Jayhawk or any of the other 6 builds I have going on right now. And hope you guys have a great day. And until next time, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.